Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, it's Jory Rose. Welcome back to this week's episode of Journey Forward with Jory Rose. October is Emotional Wellness Month, and man, it couldn't come at a better time for us to increase our awareness and practice our skills and build our toolbox of all of the resources that we can have in order to create emotional wellness. Especially as here we are now in the last quarter of 2020, and this year has just not let up. Our emotional balance and wellness has been tested with something new seemingly every month. I mean, just with the onset of coronavirus and the multiple ways in which that has impacted our lives, both in the present and in the foreseeable future, with our challenges we've had in our country and around the world in political and civil unrest, in balancing the climate change issues and working from home and distance learning and loneliness and depression at an all-time high and anxiety and stress at an all-time high. To me, emotional wellness is not the absence of struggle. Emotional wellness is not the absence of things going wrong. It is having the ability to know what to do when things are just out of whack. To me, emotional wellness is having a solid toolbox of resources that you can draw upon. And when one doesn't work, you try another. And when that one doesn't work, you try another. Because for what we've seen, this right now is our new normal. And we can't wait for things to, quote, just go back to how they used to be, to go back to normal for us to feel in balance again. And if that's the expectation that we're holding, then I think we're going to continue to experience the high levels of stress, anxiety, and depression that I've seen all the numbers of the studies come in so far this year. So I want to go through a couple of different ideas and give you some suggestions in different ways that you can bring more emotional wellness. And I'm going to also combine this with kind of thinking about it in terms of emotional balance. Because wellness implies that you have to always have it be positive. And what I want to suggest is how can, even in the midst of a lot of challenge and adversity and struggle, for you to feel a sense of balance, which can create your overall wellness. That wellness does not come from ease. Wellness comes from balance and knowing how to get yourself to an equilibrium in which you are not constantly flooded or overwhelmed or having an inability to be present. And if you've been listening to me and my work for any amount of time, you know that for me, so much of this comes down to cultivating and maintaining a mindfulness practice. And in an effort to really help you guys delve deeper and further into this, from October through December, if you follow me on social media, check me out on Instagram at Jory Rose or on Facebook at Jory Rose as well. And I am going to be going into more depth than I've ever done. And I will parallel that here in the podcast, more depth on how to cultivate and maintain an attainable, relatable, and integratable mindfulness practice so you actually can feel balanced despite the adversity and struggle and challenge that we continue to face. Because it's not about waiting for there to be lack of struggle. It's not about waiting for life to go back to normal. It's about knowing, how can I maintain presence? How can I stop feeling so overwhelmed or distracted or an inability to focus or pay attention or have a clear mind so I can make discerning decisions? All of that to me is what emotional wellness means. So maybe even just consider, what does emotional wellness mean to you? Because we might be having different definitions, and that's perfectly fine. But do consider what it does mean to you. And as I go through all the different ways to deepen and cultivate and maintain and integrate mindfulness practice, At the root of that is, how can you reduce your own suffering regardless of what's arising? I mean, this is the foundation of this practice. This is what I teach. This is what I believe in. And this is what I know has changed my life. So I've had better strength whenever I get thrown off course. That when those curveballs get thrown at me, I'm able to dodge them in a way that's not ignoring them, denying them, or resisting them. I can judge it in terms of, wow, I don't like this, but to not take judgment on myself for an inability to manage them, right? Because at the root of being mindful is to observe what's arising without judgment. Now, the judgment part's always a tricky piece because, of course, we have judgments, and judgments often inform us of our values. It informs us of how to be discerning in how we move forward in our lives and our relationships, because when we judge something, we're really learning about something about ourselves. But to not let those judgments take over, and to be able to stay in that observer mind of whatever's arising, you got to be able to just stay in awareness, stay neutral in your immediate reactions, because that's going to give you the ability to draw upon deeper resources. So if you want to follow on my social media, I'm going to be doing some monthly challenges as well to help you deepen this practice. And, as the foundation of mindfulness is a meditation practice. And one of the challenges I'm going to be doing in October is a 5-day meditation challenge. I think it's going to be the last week of October, so be sure to check out social media and listen in the podcast for how you can participate in that. And I'm not going to talk about it here. I'm going to save it for another podcast episode. But so much of what prevents people from integrating meditation into their life is there's a ton of myths around it. So I'll have a whole other episode on just about that. But I'm just planting the seed for that, because the meditation practice is the foundation to be able to practice mindfulness every single day. And mindfulness isn't something you add to your to-do list. It's not one more thing you need to check off and say, okay, I was mindful now, so clearly I can move on with the rest of my day. Mindfulness is something that you integrate. It's a quality of presence. It's a way of being. It's a way of showing up moment to moment in your life. It's not getting stuck up in rumination of dwelling in the past, whether the past is positive or negative. And mindfulness is having the ability to notice when your mind has wandered to the future, to that what ifs and the unknowns and the anxieties of that future unknown. Mindfulness is that ability to be present with whatever is arising, with a neutrality of mind, which is equanimity, to be able to say, I see this for what it is. I don't need to get thrown off course. I can stay solid and hold my sacred ground. I can observe what's arising. I can feel all the feelings that I feel as a result of it without letting those feelings define me, take over, prevent me from being present, prevent me from focusing and paying attention. I can respond and not react to whatever is arising because I've got the ability to manage and have emotional regulation. And when I have emotional regulation, I have a clearer mind, I'm better at communication, I'm more effective in my productivity, I am more present in my relationships, I am less reactive. And when I have that emotional regulation, I have an ability to feel and honor and acknowledge any emotion that I am experiencing without having it define me and without having it take over. Now, I know this is so much easier said than done, but to me, this is the root of emotional wellness. It's how can I be present with whatever I'm experiencing and just allow it to be. And if you've been listening to me for some time, you know that allowing it to be and accepting what is does not mean you have to like it. It simply means you're not denying that it's what's here. You're not judging yourself for what you're feeling. You're honoring and allowing it to exist without the judgments of why can't I handle this better, without the comparison to potentially how you're perceiving other people to handle it differently. It is a true compassionate awareness. Easier said than done, but with practice, it does become easier. So again, at the root of all of emotional wellness, I see mindfulness as being one of the key ways for you to be able to maintain balance and have integrity in your experiences. What I mean by integrity is to show up in alignment with your intentions, to have the intention of having emotional regulation, having that balance and that wellness, and knowing what you can draw upon when you're feeling stuck. So a couple of things I want to talk about that help add to this ability to create greater wellness. The definition of self-compassion, there's three things, and I know you've heard me talk about them before. There's common humanity, which is the idea that you are not alone, that whatever you're experiencing is part of the human experience. There's mindfulness, which is the acceptance of what's arising, and there's a kindness to self with your inner critic, turning down the volume on those inner judgments, turning up the volume on the way that you speak to yourself in kindness and compassion, just like you would to someone you're close to. But I think there's some other components that are fundamental for you to maintain wellness. Part of it is knowing your values. If you don't know what's important to you and you don't know what it is that you use as your North Star or your guiding light or the goalposts for which you move through your life, it's hard for you to stay within a place of feeling centered and grounded. So knowing your values is a way of helping you create the space for what you want your life to look like, noticing with intention when maybe you've missed the mark, what you need to do to get back to that middle ground, to live within that value set. Your values, I like to think about, I can post something that maybe you guys can download. I can put it in the show notes. Or you can just, type in a 100-word list of values and just go through these words and circle the top 10 that are most stand out to you. Maybe it's words like authenticity or family or connection or communication or growth, wisdom, freedom, spirituality, sexuality, thoughtfulness, kindness, compassion. I mean, all these words are different values that we want to live within our life. So a way to determine your values, circle the top 10 words that you see on a list, keep narrowing them down, grouping them together into categories. And I like to group them down into 2 top values that maybe all other will fall under these umbrellas. When you know what your values are, you then have a clearer sense of understanding that when conflict arises in your life, oftentimes conflict is a result of a violation of a value that you have. So if you value communication and your partner's arguing with you and picking fights, it's highlighting your value of effective communication, and maybe you can respond in a way that's values driven rather than react to the argument he was or she was trying to nitpick with you. If you know that your value is authenticity and you are in a relationship in which you don't feel like you can be yourself and it's causing you distress and causing you to feel uncomfortable stepping out of your own boundaries of what feels in alignment with yourself, then rather than completely shutting down or, maybe reacting to the other person, maybe recognize, wow, I'm out of alignment in this value of authenticity. So this can create some foundations of how to bring greater wellness into your life is by knowing what are these North Stars that help you feel centered and grounded. Another really important component of the compassion piece that I think adds in to this ability to create greater wellness is knowing how to draw effective boundaries. If you are in a situation in which your values are constantly being violated and you are feeling thrown off center, then you need to know what are your boundaries that you can enact to protect your energy, to protect your emotional space, to protect your physical space. Because in absence of drawing boundaries, you let toxicity seep into your life. And so having the ability to draw a boundary is easier said than done, and it's not always easy to do, especially if you're in relationships in which you feel stuck, or maybe there's really well-established old dysfunctional patterns. And even if that's the case, you can still practice. Maybe it's a baby step. Maybe it's something that you begin to do internally before externally voicing. Maybe your boundary is simply stopping scrolling through Facebook at night if you know it gives you anxiety, causing you poor sleep. But boundaries and limits, if you don't define what you need to maintain that regulation of your thoughts and your emotions and your energy, then you're going to have a really difficult time maintaining emotional wellness and balance. This extends to your relationships. Look at the relationships in which you have with friends. Ask yourself, what am I getting from this right now? And if you're feeling especially tapped out, if you're feeling especially stretched thin or overwhelmed or anxious, know when you can have the space to show up for your friends, and even perhaps have the vulnerability to ask them for what you need from them if you aren't able to show up, or if you're needing to take some space from the relationship. Okay, so hopefully those are some helpful things to start with in thinking about your emotional wellness. Another area in considering emotional wellness is understanding what you can and cannot fix. At the root of this, it's like the serenity prayer, right? It's understanding the wisdom to know what you can change and what you can't. And how do you discern the difference? And one of the areas that I've seen a lot of my clients struggle in maintaining their emotional wellness is when they take on the emotions of those around them, especially in situations and scenarios in which they can't fix the situation. And one of the areas I'm seeing this most constant is as related to COVID and managing our kids and helping them with the struggles they're having of feeling socially disconnected from their friends as they're doing remote learning and are likely experiencing different levels of disconnect in their world. So what do you do with this sadness, with this loneliness, when there aren't a whole lot of options of how to fix it per se, because we can't just go back to life as normal, go back to school as normal, be with our friends as normal. So whether it's you or someone you love experiencing this, honoring it, acknowledging it, giving it room to exist, not judging that this is what's arising, and recognizing that right now is harder than ever. So if you or your child or a loved one is struggling with something that you can't fix, to really remind them it's not their fault, right? It's not a function of them not knowing how to make friends or how to be a good friend or how to maintain connection, but that right now we are being tested and challenged in ways that we never have been before. And to give the compassion to say, I honor what you're feeling. I'm here to listen. I'm here to sit with you. Compassion, the root word in Latin is translated to sit with. So to be able to sit with someone else in their pain, or sit with yourself in your own pain, and get creative in different problem-solving strategies rather than just relying on the way it used to be. But when some of even those strategies aren't working, the way to continue to maintain the balance and the wellness is to draw on different resources. I love to guide my children through the mindfulness of this in the moment. Can I observe this sadness without letting it take over? Can I feel really yucky, knowing that this yuckiness is not going to last forever? It's impermanent, or everything is impermanent, including this emotion. This feeling of loneliness is not permanent, and it's not personal. It feels personal and it feels permanent. And when we can remind ourselves and our loved ones that it is not personal nor permanent, it gives us some greater resiliency to recognize, okay, I can continue to get through this. Because part of what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to maintain regulation of our nervous system. Because understand that part of what is making it so hard to maintain balance and wellness right now is it feels like we are getting these constant mini re-triggering of traumas. Now, I know trauma sounds like a really big word, But a trauma is really defined as any dysregulation to the nervous system. So if you think about the way our brain was designed, in a way to keep us alert and safe to any potential threat or harm around us. Well, when we are in constant and chronic on the lookout for that stress, we never get to a baseline of rest and digest in the brain, of calm and of greater presence. So each time we get re-triggered, it's upping the ante of our nervous system, preventing us from getting, like I said, back down to that baseline, making it harder to be within what's called a window of tolerance of our emotional regulation. So if you imagine like a square, and on the higher end of the square, you're feeling amped up and anxious, and on the lower end, you're feeling really down and depressed, that you want to have some room within this square to move up and down, where you can have different feelings of grounded or wellness. And at times it might be a little bit higher towards the anxiety, and at times it might be a little bit lower in emotion toward the depression or the slowing down or feeling like Eeyore, right, from Winnie the Pooh. But you want to maintain some balance within this window of tolerance. So you're not outside of this window of tolerance where you're too high on the anxiety realm or you're too low on the depression realm. And this is really hard to do when we keep getting re-triggered with more and more traumas. And 2020 has brought us what feels like a continual onset of traumas that we are up against. So the ability to feel that we are back in the middle of that window of tolerance has become a lot harder. This is where meditation can help bring the nervous system back to the rest and digest. Mindfulness is another ability to be able to do that. Compassion, choosing gratitude. Remember, gratitude doesn't take away what we're struggling with. It helps shift the lens through which we see the world, helping the nervous system calm down and not feel so activated. Another way to get our nervous system regulated is to be really gentle with your expectations on yourself. I've talked with so many people recently about feeling guilty of what they haven't accomplished, either over the whole 6 months since we've had the beginning of COVID, or what they haven't accomplished in each day. And if you are expecting yourself to be at the same level of productivity as you were pre-COVID, then you're adding extra layers of stress to yourself, making it much harder to maintain any emotional wellness. Because remember, we've been triggered and we've been experiencing trauma, which is making our nervous system having a difficult time for focus and attention and productivity. Because anytime that sympathetic nervous system is activated, it's shutting down our executive functioning. And like I said, it's been happening at a higher frequency, lasting with greater duration and higher intensity for going on 6 months right now. And I am seeing people getting to what feels like a breaking point. So remember, it's not personal and it's not permanent. And it's the reality of what's happening around us. So to find ways to get into regulation, to be able to quiet down the overactive brain in which has been constantly traumatized, so we can get to a place of rest and digest. So decreasing your expectations on yourself, asking yourself what is necessary for me to have to get done or accomplished versus what I would like to get done or accomplished. And let yourself answer that question based on where you are at each day in your own emotional regulation, in your own trauma response, in your own ability to feel more grounded or centered or balanced in your wellness. And then make a decision moving forward on how to enact your expectations. But if you have a baseline expectation, regardless of where your mood or emotions or energy is at, you're going to just be adding to more little mini triggers and mini traumas to the nervous system. So in wrapping this up, I want to, remind you that when we talk about wellness, to me, it is about staying within this window of tolerance so we are not overly activated in anxiety and we are not shut down in depression, and we have greater skills and resources to tolerate what we're experiencing. The ways that we tolerate with greater awareness what we're experiencing is through observing what we're noticing, reminding ourselves it's not permanent, nor is it personal, reminding ourselves to have compassion and be kind to ourselves and the people around us and others. It's coming back to being values driven. So you know from those values, you know how to draw boundaries and draw limits. When you understand your values, you have a deeper sense of knowing where you're getting stuck in conflict with others, perhaps. But at the root of it, wellness does not mean having the absence of issues. Wellness is the ability to acknowledge what's arising and be able to have the equanimity and the resources and the skills and the tools to say, I can get through this. And in fact, you have 100% success rate of getting through everything you didn't think you could. I know it may not have been easy, and the fact that you're here and you're listening means that you're breathing and you're already getting through it. So I hope this is helpful. Check out my social media starting for October as I deepen the tools on mindfulness. I'm going to have future episodes get really specific about this, but for right now, I kind of wanted to give the broad introduction to October being Emotional Wellness Month, to have you consider what emotional wellness means to you, to perhaps even consider where are you getting most stuck in your emotional wellness, to be able to notice when are you having a difficult time entering into self-compassion, when are you having a difficult time lowering your expectations, when are you taking things too personally, where are you believing things are permanent, where are you having a difficult time enacting healthy limits and boundaries. And the more you do this, the easier it does become. It is a practice. And we know with neuroscience, we do have the ability to rewire our brain towards new habits and patterns. And instituting habits and patterns for wellness can happen. It's not a one and done. Mindfulness and meditation is not a one and done. It's an ongoing practice for you to increase your awareness of what's arising, your compassion for what's arising, and your ability to not need to change it immediately, to sit with what is. So I invite you to take a moment, take a few deep breaths. Remember, your breath is the best tool you have to help you get into regulation of your emotions, of your nervous system. When you can connect with your breath, when you can remember to connect with your breath, you are giving yourself the gift of pause to be able to quiet down the thoughts, slow your reactions, get back into your body, get back into your intentions so you can practice being with whatever is in a more kind and compassionate way. So perhaps even also think about ways that you'd like to bring wellness into your life. The more you can be clear on what you're wanting to bring in, the better ability you'll have at being able to do so. And yet do it without attachment, right? So you're not making this list with adding more expectations to your to-do list. It's more about the quality of presence, the way of being, and the ways in which you can continue to be resilient and pivot with whatever each moment is bringing. Thanks you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope that it gave you some good insight and some good ideas for bringing more emotional regulation and wellness into your day and into your life and into those around you. And check out my social media. There's going to be a lot more specifics of how to do this, and stay tuned for future episodes in which I'll be guiding you more through the ways to integrate mindfulness in a way that's relatable, attainable, and that you'll actually be able to draw upon moment to moment. All right, you guys, be well.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat, visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.